Welcome into the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Lucas Frankel alongside Mike Lucas. Mike, the Nets, they bounced back from a horrendous, embarrassing loss on the national stage where Stephen A. Smith lost his mind. They beat the Cavaliers. Again, the shorthanded Cleveland Cavaliers. No Evan Mobley, no Jared Allen, no Colin Sexton. If those three guys played, maybe it's a different game. But either way, you beat who you beat. You play who you play. The Nets beat 109-99 and now 11-5 in the season in a virtual tie for first place in the conference. But all I can hear in my head is Stephen A. Smith screaming his head off that Kevin Durant made the worst decision in the history of the NBA, leaving the Warriors to join Kyrie Irving in the Nets because Kyrie Irving is now missing in action. It makes my blood boil every single time I hear it. What are your thoughts on the current status of the Nets and Stephen A. Smith's just obliteration of Kyrie Irving and this organization and the fan base?
Let's start with the Stephen A. comments because I think that ties into the Nets as a team right now. First and foremost, when he says stuff like that, all you can do is roll your eyes because it is a rather meaningless Tuesday night game that happened to be on national TV, and you happen to get Kevin Durant's worst shooting performance of the season on top of Steph Curry getting supernova hot. And the Warriors are good. I mean, the Warriors are legitimately a threat to any team in the NBA, but when Steph Curry's making shots like that, you're not going to beat them unless you have your A game, and the Nets didn't have their A game. So for Stephen A. to come on the next day and say, oh, the Nets Durant made a terrible mistake. The Nets are overrated, yada, yada. Like they played like crap on a Tuesday night and they got beat by a team that's really, really good. So yes, Stephen A. could overreact. It's his job to make these ridiculous claims and bold predictions, but we're not going to know if KD made the wrong choice in joining Brooklyn till the end of his contract and trying to judge someone's future 2 years down the road when there are still many variables. I mean, he was with the Nets team last year. I'm going to rehash things we've said, but he was literally a half a shoe size away from winning the NBA championship without Kyrie Irving and with James Harden on one leg. And as James Harden continues to play himself into shape, as LaMarcus Aldridge, who's been out of this world, continues to do what he does, as the Nets team kind of finds its groove and its rhythm, because this is a team with a lot of new faces that are still trying to figure out how they fit in with each other, especially as Harden changes how he plays. That's a whole nother aspect that we could get into, Frank. But it's Stephen A. overreacting to a team that despite not having Kyrie Irving, that despite James Harden has been a 3 out of 10 at best so far this season, that in spite having to mix and match bench players to figure out who fits best when and where, is still 11-5 and tied for first in the East. So yeah, you could overreact all you want, Stephen A. I understand that's your job, but they are 16 games into an 82-game season. 16 games. Or any reaction so far is premature. The Lakers, once LeBron comes back, will most likely be fine. The Nets, with or without Kyrie Irving, are a threat. Your roommate's behind you, Frank.
Oh, he's here.
What's up, dude? Good to see you. And anyone who's trying to belittle what they've done so far is just doing it for the headline grab. Stephen A. Smith, calm down, dude. Just take a chill pill, relax. I know you're going to unleash on him. And yeah, it sucks that Kyrie Irving's not back. And we could get into that because I have more issues with Kyrie than Stephen A. But the truth is, chill out, bro. Just straight up chill out.
When he makes all these claims and these declarations, it makes me so mad because I part of me thinks that he's right. As much as like you tell me to calm down, as much as we're 16 games in the season, or when he said it was 15 games, but I see this team and I see like who they're. I mean, they're throwing guys out there last night, and this dude James Johnson, who's got like tattoos up and down his whole neck, who I've never heard of, is playing crunch time minutes.
Can I tell you something about James Johnson real quick? Fun
you know
fact.
About him?
Well, he was on Miami with Eli.
Oh, okay.
James Johnson is a legitimate black belt to the utmost degree in jiu-jitsu and karate. And Eli says if there was ever a brawl to break out in the NBA, like a Royal Rumble, James Johnson is the guy who would win it hands down. So I love the fact he's not a great player. He's kind of an intimidator, a bully, but he is the ultimate guy to protect KD and Harden if there's ever a little scuffle. So just keep that in mind. I don't know if that changes your opinion on James Johnson, but just know he is the baddest dude in the NBA.
I mean, I've never heard of him before. I've never seen him play, but all of a sudden I look up and there's 6 minutes to go in the net game and he's playing crunch time minutes over Bruce Brown. I saw him introduced in the video board before the game, and I've never seen it. I'm pretty sure I've watched like most net games, aside from when they're losing by 30 points with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, maybe that's when he gets in the game, but I couldn't believe that he was there. The Nets got to do something about Kyrie Irving. This has to end. I can't go through a whole season where they have Harden and Durant playing and either this Kyrie Irving just out there doing nothing. I don't know what he's doing, or they got to come to a resolution here and he's got to play. You can't. They have to either make a move or just do something here to try to like get him back, because they need. It's so blatantly obvious they're missing that one extra piece, that one extra layer. Where if Durant's not 100% on this game, or Harden is having an off night, they just need that extra boost from another reliable scoring option. I just don't see this team having any legitimate chance of. I mean, obviously they have a chance, but like they just need that extra guy if they're really going to be super serious about winning a championship. And when I hear Stephen A say, that's all I could think about, and I just can't believe that we've reached this point with Kyrie Irving where he's literally not going to return because they're not changing the rules, and he is so stubborn, and he is not going to change his thought process. And it's you can't say I'm wrong. You can't tell me I'm wrong.
No, I'm not. And I don't. What Stephen A said, he made the wrong choice joining Kyrie. Like, yeah, that may have been the wrong choice, hooking your wagon to a guy who's so unreliable. But to say he made the wrong choice and will never win in Brooklyn, like that's where I have an issue. Kyrie Irving is the most volatile superstar teammate ever, just because you don't know what you're ever going to get from him. And you're right. The Nets can't win a championship without him this year with their current roster. Like, things have to change, and they have to find another guy who can create and score. So it's not all on Durant's shoulders. It's not all on Harden's belly to figure out how to get buckets in crunch time situations. They do need Kyrie. Like, this team does need Kyrie Irving to match up with some of the better teams in the East. And I'm not sure when, if, how, or why he'll come back. But I do believe they have to decide either, Kyrie, you're part of this team, get your ass in here, or you're not, and we're trading you. Because you have Kevin Durant in his prime playing at the peak of his powers. You have James Harden, who to this point of the season has not played to his best ability, but you still have James Harden, and you have pieces around them that should be able to contend for a title. And having an asset like Kyrie Irving just sit there, it's similar to Ben Simmons. Having an asset of that caliber just sit there. And I'm not saying the players the same. I'm just saying having that asset sit there while you are in championship mode doesn't make sense. And I've told this to Eli, and I know he doesn't relay my messages to Daryl Morey, but I would say the same thing to Sean Marks. If you have that asset, either he has to play or you have to get something for it, because these windows and these opportunities to win a championship come so few and far between that when that window is open, you have to exploit it. And not exploiting it is just as bad of a move as all the good moves Sean Marks has made to get the Nets in this position.
And I think that's part of the reason why I get so worked up every time I hear Stephen A talk about it, because again, they're just, they got to make a move. Either way, moving on from Kyrie, I don't really want to talk about him anymore, even though it's going to be a constant theme in my head and with this team the rest of the season. Another point that he always makes is how the arena is so quiet and so dead and there's no fans. There was a point in the game last night where it was early, like in the first quarter, it was dead silent. And I love those moments because it's a chance for me to say what I want to say to Kevin Durant and have him hear me. So it was dead. It was dead silent in the arena. The Nets are shooting free throws. Durant's like waiting on the other end of the court. Someone's shooting free throws. I forget who it was. And I just screamed at the top of my head, like, let's go, Kevin Durant. Like, who needs that scrub Kyrie Irving? Let's win a championship now. Let's go. And he heard me, and he didn't look at my door. He like gave me like a glance and shook his head. So I wish he like was like gave me like a fist pump or something, but I think he was just like, oh, we get some idiot fan. But I deserve a little more respect than that, in my opinion. But in your opinion, like, this Nets team, they've been around for 9 years in Brooklyn. The Knicks obviously are generation of 15 generations in New York City. Is it fair to like constantly, because all I hear about is at work from the media that the Nets have like the worst fan, they're like the Tampa Bay Rays of basketball. Is that fair? Or is that what we're dealing with here?
I mean, no, the Rays don't have fans. I think you've seen,
right, but like but not to the level of the Rays, but similar.
Think about it. Even last year in the playoffs, there was a legitimate home court advantage at Barclays. And I think the Nets may be I don't say a fair weather fan base, but a team that there's so many options in New York, and until you're in the playoffs, you're not going to get great regular season crowds day in and day out. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to be Golden State that has that tradition. And I think maybe at some point they can get there. I think at some point, if they keep winning and they keep this tradition up of turning Barclays into an event, not just a game, that, you could build it, but they've been in Brooklyn for what, 6 years?
No, it's,
Right?
it's like 2013 or 2012-13 season was the first year.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've been there less than a decade, and you don't build roots in a decade. And I'm gonna steal a quote from Buzz Williams here. And Buzz talks in the most random, ridiculous quotes ever. And I love you, Buzz, but you develop habits, or you grow by developing habits and then nurturing them. And it doesn't happen overnight, and it takes a long, long time. And the Nets are developing a winning culture. And as a fan base, we're developing habits of going to games on a Tuesday night against the Cavaliers or a Wednesday night against the Cavaliers when there are so many other things to do. And then one person does it, another person sees that, and it follows in line. So right now, the Nets fan base, it's okay. Like, it is what it is. It's not phenomenal, but go back to the playoffs last year. The Nets were phenomenal at home, and that crowd made a difference. I know they lost game 7, but that crowd made a difference, Frank. And I think as the Nets continue to grow as a franchise and, plant their roots in Brooklyn, we're only going to see it become more and more consistent on the days that it's not a marquee game or a marquee matchup. You were there against Cleveland. What was the crowd like for Golden State? I
didn't see it, but based on what Stephen A. Smith said, it was you could hear a cricket in the place, and the only cheering that was going on was when they were cheering for Steph Curry, and they were chanting MVP for him. So I wasn't there for it, but it does seem like it's one of those crowds like the Chargers in LA where they're playing in this huge market, and there's an infusion of the other team's fan base that senses an opportunity to get some good value and make your voices heard. So maybe that's a better comparison. More like the Chargers at the moment.
Yeah.
But whatever. It is what it is. A couple other points here before we finish up with the Nets. Blake Griffin's the Nets need to just release Blake Griffin. He adds nothing to this.
He's tough.
There was a play last night that he just rolled the ball. He was inbounding the ball. He just threw it right to the other, literally threw it right to the other team. And then he's shaking his head as he's walking up the court. He can't finish around the rim anymore. He was 1 of 5 for 2 points in 18 minutes. I mean, I don't know what his purpose is. The Nets need to play like Day'Ron Sharpe. When he plays, again, it's garbage time, but let this young guy go out there and eat up some minutes. I mean, I just don't understand.
The one thing Blake adds,
don't tell me it's experience.
No. And I was wrong. I'm gonna take the L here, Frank. Put the L on my forehead. I thought Blake still had more left in him than he did when we had our last podcast 2 weeks ago. The only thing he adds, and I think it's valuable in certain situations, is he's a very good help defender. Now, he can't contest shots at the rim. He's not a rim protector, but he's a good help defender. And I think with certain lineups out there, even though he's a 0 on offense at the moment, maybe he finds a shot, maybe he doesn't, but right now he's a 0 on offense. He does allow them to play. Yeah, he allows them to play other guys who are zeros or negatives on defense with him because he is able to recover and help and be in the right spot. And it comes with experience, but it's not based on experience. He's just a smart player at this point of his career, and he gives you nothing on the offensive end, but I do think he covers up for a couple guys like Cam Thomas or even Joe Harris to an extent, like those guys who aren't great defenders. He can play alongside them because he minimalizes some of their defensive lapses. So that's the only thing he adds, because offensively he's a goose egg, and he's not the same player he was even 5 months ago in the postseason. He's not the same player.
We'll see. I mean, we thought the same thing about James Harden, but James Harden seems to be he's had some unbelievable. I mean, he's had a couple of unbelievable games here, and he's starting, I think, to get back to that every night, being a 30-point triple-double threat, and that for me is amazing to see. He is driving past defenders now, getting to the basket. He's being a little too passive, I think, when he gets to the basket. I don't know if he's afraid of the contact or what, but you're seeing that teams now are unable to just stop him. So that is great to see, and It's going to be a roller coaster season here for the Nets, and they got to start beating some good teams. They got the Suns coming up, not this Saturday, the next Saturday, but they've lost to the Bucks. They've lost to a couple of legitimate, the Hornets, who are playing really well. They obviously lost to the Warriors, the Heat. So they've lost to like the cream of the crop teams here in the NBA in the early going. So I'd love for them to pick up like a signature win. And that the next game I'm really targeting is that 1 week from Saturday against the Suns at home. Go out there. They've won 10 in a row, the Suns have, and make a statement. I would love to see them win that game. Back to the Warriors real quick. By the way, you're in your mind right now, you have choose one player, best player in the league. You want him on your team over anyone else. Who do you choose?
It's either Steph or Giannis.
It's not Durant. We agree it's not Durant.
I think Durant's third. I think Steph and Giannis right now are on a different level, and it's 1A, 1B, and then Durant's 2, and then Durant and Jokic.
Durant's better than Jokic, but I agree. Because like what Steph did on Tuesday, it's just like no one can do that. But and then you go back to Giannis. Giannis is, if he just drives to the basket and does that every single time, I mean, he'll score.
Giannis is physically unstoppable. Yeah, literally physically unstoppable.
It's absolutely absurd. So the Warriors thing doesn't really make much sense. So they got Steph, they got Gary Payton II, they got Draymond Green, they got Jordan Poole. It's not like this collection of, it's not like the 2017 Warriors that were, top to bottom, just absolutely loaded to the brim. It's a bunch. It's literally like guys thrown together and aging over the hill of Draymond Green, and they seem to have turned back the clock here. Basically, the same team that was a play-in team last year, and obviously they haven't even had Klay Thompson. In your mind, when they do get Klay Thompson back, is this like a surefire best team in the West going to the finals team?
When you depend so much on a jump shot, it's hard to pencil a team.
But every team's shooting threes now.
But they have no offense that's outside of it. They don't have the ability to like for Giannis, like, hey, we're not making threes today, get to the paint. Like they don't have that option. I think what their team is, though, is extremely unselfish. And that's the difference in watching them and watching some of the other teams in the league. Steph Curry, we just said, might be the best player in basketball right now. The greatest shooter ever. He's playing at an unbelievable level. And he's the first one to pass up a good look for a great look. And you don't see other team superstars necessarily do that as frequently as Steph does. And when you get Klay back in the mix and you get some of the other guys that they have, Poole, Peyton, Draymond, I mean, they just have bodies. They got 11, 12 guys, Frank, who won't play in the postseason. Your rotation cuts down. But in the regular season, we've seen time after time that the deepest teams in the league are usually the best in the regular season because you play so many guys, and even the Nets are playing guys 9, 10, 11, 12 on the bench, and Golden State's 9, 10, 11, 12 are just significantly better than the Nets. And in that game, as soon as they put LaMarcus Aldridge in, the announcers kept saying, they can't play Aldridge, he's going to get burned. Well, what'd they do? They put him in a pick and roll, and they threw a bounce pass between his legs, and they got an easy dunk because they can exploit matchups in ways that other teams can't. And that goes to Steve Kerr for his coaching and his philosophy. That goes to the versatility of Bob Myers building that roster. And then it goes to the gravitational pull Steph has, where you cannot help off him. And even not the guy defending Steph, but it's like the other guy who's helping Steph can't even leave in case the main defender is half a step late. So it's a dangerous team. And I have my doubts still in the postseason just because so much can change from now to then. But they're the best team in the league right now. And in the regular season, their over-under was like 49 or 44, whatever it was. And I was like, that's way too low. It's the only bet I've won in all my over-unders. Or only one that looks like I'm going to win. I was like 1 for 8, but that's a surefire lock, man. They're phenomenal. And they're so fun to watch.
We'll see. It doesn't make too much sense right now. Obviously, we know how good Steph is. But when they get Klay and Wiseman back and we see that team at full strength, then I'll be able to tell you for sure whether I think they do have what it takes to go to the NBA Finals. Moving on to the National Football League. It's been a roller coaster season for the Kansas City Chiefs, but for my money, they turned a corner, beating the Raiders 41-14. Mahomes threw 406 yards, 5 touchdowns. By the way, third career game with 400-plus passing yards and 5+ passing touchdowns since the end of the league in 2017. The rest of the NFL quarterbacks during that period have 4 such games. So Mahomes got 3 400, 5 touchdown games. The rest of the quarterbacks in the entire league in that span have 4. Mahomes is back. The Chiefs are back. And Mike, I saw the odds last night. On Caesar Sportsbook, they were minus 110 to win the AFC West. On FanDuel, they were minus 105. And so I basically, what I did was I parlayed minus 105 to win the AFC West with the Cowboys to win the NFC East. Because, I mean, barring the collapse of the century and of the last 200 years, the Cowboys are going to win the NFC East. So I just saw that and I was like, I saw the rest of their schedule and I see like one or two more games they could possibly lose, including this week to the Cowboys, and I put $225 on it. I just feel like they're about to run amok. They might run the table in the regular season, and if I can get them at minus 105 to win the division, I mean, I'm going to hammer that. And I got so excited when I saw it, and with my luck, Mahomes will tear his ACL this week, and I'll lose. But that's where I stand right now. I just think they're about to get like.
I think they lose this week.
But even if they do, I don't think they're going to lose. But I don't even if the
rest of their schedule is easy. I agree with you. I actually may look at the odds on my sports bet and see if I could parlay that.
Because who do you trust in that division? You talk Justin Herbert and the Chargers.
No,
I mean, I
don't trust anyone. The Raiders are done.
Yeah, the Raiders cross off the Raiders, cross off the Broncos, and then the Chargers. I mean, Herbert is great, but he seems to have not be as amazing as he was earlier in the season, and they got some issues.
They can't stop the run. They literally can't stop the run.
Yeah, their defense isn't holding up. So I just don't see unless Mahomes Mahomes will get hurt now, because this is how my bets work.
I'm knocking on wood for you.
But I just feel like minus 105 to win the AFC West in that division. I mean, man, how do you pass that up? How does anyone pass that up?
I don't know. Well, I'll say this about the Chiefs. They had been so bad for so long this season, long's relative term, it's a couple of weeks, but their offense had been so putrid and so out of character for
shocking. It was shocking.
Yeah, it was shocking. Yeah, to see them get back to what they do, like we did against Oakland or Las Vegas, was like refreshing. And I say that in the sense that Mahomes, and maybe it was that last second throw against Green Bay where he rolled out and clinched it on that scramble and dart to Tyreek Hill. And maybe that found his mojo. But it is crazy how in football and basketball too, I guess, one play can really change the trajectory of how things go, because it looked like a different offense. And I'm curious to see, can Mahomes keep up and sustain that level of play and that version of play where he wasn't going for the deep ball every time, where he was kind of taking what the defense was allowing him to take and waiting patiently until the deep ball was there. Against the Cowboys defense, that's opportunistic. And it's
Mahomes goes, I'm shocked that's not. It should be the Sunday night.
They should fly. It's the best game of the season so far. It really is the best game of the season so far. And I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I took the over, but I'm just curious to see, are we going to see which version of Mahomes? Is he going to go back now that he got a little taste of success again? Is he going to revert? And is Andy Reid going to revert to dialing up some of these deep balls? Or are we going to see the methodical, direct Patrick Mahomes? Because this Cowboys offense is going to score. I mean, this Cowboys offense is phenomenal too. So they're going to have to match points for points. This is not a game they'll be able to kind of squeak by with 20 like they did against the Giants. Like, they better put up 35 plus if they're winning this game.
Yeah, so the spread's 2.5 as of now, over under 56. So you got the total 56?
I got 55.5.
Okay. So yeah. So I mean, it's so hard to say, because I mean, you saw the Cowboys a couple weeks ago against the Broncos. They laid an absolute egg and they looked unbelievable last week. So like, there are going to be times, ebbs and flows of the season. But listen, all you got to do is go back to last season. After 12 games, the Buccaneers were 7-5. No one was really sure what they were going to do if they ran the table, won the Super Bowl. So you really got to take everything with a grain of salt here early in the season. I think the Chiefs, I don't know if they were bored or not into it or what was going on, but I feel like now they know, all right, it's winning time. Let's go. And they're going to really, really start turning it on here. As for the game on Sunday, I have no idea what's going to happen. But obviously predicting points is not a bad way to go, which is why I'm sure that like 98% of the money will be on the over. So maybe the under hits and it ends up being like a 23-22 game, something like that. We'll see what happens.
I'll be so mad.
So another interesting storyline here, and one team that is really, really, really picking up steam that is not making me very happy at all, is the New England Patriots. They won 4 in a row. They are now 6-4 in the season, 1 game back of the Bills for the AFC East lead. Bill Simmons is losing his mind in excitement. Their last 2 games, They've beaten the Panthers. They've beaten the Browns, 2 perennial playoff teams. They've beaten them by a combined score of 69-13. Mike, the way that like Tom Carroll's tweeting about them, the way that they are just clicking on all cylinders right now. Mac Jones isn't like lighting up, like throwing for 300 yards, but he doesn't have to. They got Damian Harris, Rashandre Stevenson, and Brandon Bolden, 3 like very versatile backs out of the backfield. They got legitimate playmakers at the receiver and tight end position. Their defense is flying around like animals. This team, I feel like that they can compete with anybody if they just don't fall behind by 14, 10, 14, 21 points, and they're in the game. I feel like they're as dangerous as anybody, and it's I just can't believe that a year after losing Brady, 2 years after losing Brady, they seem to be back to where they were, and I can't believe Mac Jones is playing this well. Maybe if he went to a team like the Jets or the Jaguars, I'm sure he would suck and people would be like bench him. But you put him in a situation like he is on the Patriots with that defense, those running backs, those tight ends, and legitimate playmakers on offense, and it's all about the situation you go into. And Mac Jones is in the perfect situation, and he is thriving in every conceivable way. And if they win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked. I can't believe I'm saying if they win the Super Bowl this year, it wouldn't shock me at all. They are playing some of the best football of any team in the league right now.
The 2021 quarterback class is the sports equivalent and perfect example of nature versus nurture. And you look at these guys who were drafted in high places, who are struggling mightily because they have no weapons around them. They have no institutional support. Coaching staff isn't putting them in positions to succeed, yet are more talented. Or you look at Mac Jones, who may not have all the physical traits and athletic abilities as some other guys, who comes into the perfect situation where the coaching staff, even against the fans' will, kind of put the training wheels on him and didn't open the full playbook up at once. And now you see they're slowly letting this guy blossom into, I don't want to call him a superstar, but this dude's dissecting defenses with his eyes. He's Tom Brady 2.0, and it's infuriating to watch as a non-Patriots fan because he shouldn't be this good this early, and this team shouldn't be this good with their lack of weapons. And somehow, some way, between Bill Belichick, Steve Belichick, Mac Jones, and this defense, they're just as good, if not better, than any other team in the AFC, man. Ridiculous is the right word. And I love Simmons. He's insufferable to listen to when he's talking about the Patriots right now. I love Tom Carroll. I hate seeing his tweet. Like
it's so annoying. It's so annoying. And it's honestly every Patriots fan who's just like Super Bowl. Why not us? And that's why I'm hoping to jinx them by tweeting out that their odds to win and how it's free money, kind of like I did with the Red Sox. So, but yeah, they just seem like they're just never going to stop.
But am I wrong though? It's the perfect nature versus nurture example, because you just see it. Sometimes it's not talent. Sometimes it's the situation.
No, it's always about the situation. It's always about the situation. Mahomes going to Kansas City with Andy Reid was perfect. Yeah. Every quarterback gets drafted by the Jets is terrible. Daniel Jones going to the situation he did with the Giants, not great. So yeah. Lamar Jackson going to John Harbaugh, amazing for him. It's 100%.
No one's arguing that Trevor Lawrence isn't more talented than Mac Jones, but the difference is Trevor Lawrence is playing with maybe the worst NFL coach in history, as opposed to Mac Jones, who's with the best.
If Trevor Lawrence was on the Patriots, they'd be undefeated.
They'd be really good. They'd be really, really good. Yeah. So you're right. Let me ask this a question. It's not on the rundown, but Frank, is there a position in sports that is more
than quarterback? Come on.
No. That is more instrumental on the trajectory of a player's career than quarterback and where he's drafted? Because you see some guys in the NBA, some like the Kings, you get drafted by the Kings and they can't figure out how to develop anybody, and then they leave and they turn good. But that's just one example. But the Jets can't draft a quarterback, for example. Like it's in all.
No, they can. They can. It's just the infrastructure is always so unstable that.
That's my question. Is there a position in sports that is more? I don't know the word I'm looking for. That is tied to the system more than a quarterback.
You know
what I'm trying to ask? I can't put it into words. Like,
the
is there a position?
Where the environment matters so much is what you're trying to say. No, there is not. It's
okay.
Quarterback, and it's not close.
Okay.
And Mac Jones should be thanking his prayers every time he goes to bed that he's on the Patriots with Bill Belichick as his coach, because I don't think he's that good. All right. Other way. Moving on. A couple other quick NFL topics here. The Rams thing is puzzling.
Yes.
And obviously losing Robert Woods is a huge loss, but is Odell Beckham done as a player? I know he had a game last year against the Cowboys. He had like a passing touchdown and 2 touchdowns. I remember it because I lost fantasy because of that. That was my last fantasy loss of the season last year. I ran the table after that. But he was incredible. I mean, he was doing everything in that game. And I just can't believe that. I know he's had the ACL injury, but is he legitimately done being a threat? I mean, is it over for Odell Beckham Jr.? Is he not going to have is he done being a conceivable threat? Because I almost feel like because I was dying for him to go to the Packers or the Chiefs because I felt like they needed that weapon to take them over the top and provide another legitimate receiver. But then I saw him on Monday night. I mean, they threw the ball at him on that quick out in the first play of the game for 5 yards, and they took one deep shot where he just like stopped running. And that was that. I mean, there's so much publicity and fanfare for Odell Beckham Jr. But man, talk about not living up to the hype. Is he done?
I don't know if he's done. He hasn't been particularly great in a while. I mean, no one player has benefited more from one random play in a Sunday night football game than Odell with the catch. I mean, he was phenomenal with the Giants, but he wasn't great in Cleveland at any point. And
he sucked in Cleveland. Odell with the Giants he was up there with Randy Moss and whoever you want to put in that category, Jerry Rice. I mean, he was on that trajectory.
I'll say this. He's, as someone who watched a lot of Odell when he was on the Giants, like every game, he doesn't look the same level of athlete as he was in New York. It's older. He's been hurt. But I don't know if he's washed up. I mean, I think to base anything off that Rams game when he had 2 days of practice, he doesn't know the playbook. It's a completely new system. The deep ball miscommunication was clearly a mishap. He thought his route was ending. Stafford thought he was going. I didn't expect big things in the debut from him. I don't think he's a number 1. He may not be a number 2, but like, there's no way he's not at least a capable number 3 receiver in the league. And I don't know. I don't think anyone knows the answer. Yeah. The truth is, I don't think anyone knows the answer. We haven't seen him contribute at that level since last year. Like you said, that game, he had the reverse against Dallas where he still looked electric, but he's coming off another knee injury. Like, he was a guy who made his living off being more athletic than the DB.
You threw him a slant and he was gone.
I don't think he's more athletic than every DB anymore, but he still has, I would assume, unbelievable hands and the ability to win balls on the outside to a certain extent. And that's something the Rams don't have. Like, Cooper Kupp didn't do that, doesn't do that. Robert Woods wasn't that type of receiver. Van Jefferson isn't that type of receiver. So I think he does give the Rams a little more versatility in the wide receiver room. He's even more valuable now that Robert Woods is out with the torn ACL. But yeah, I'm not ready to say he's done, but it's not OBJ. It's Odell Beckham Jr. Like, OBJ's dead. Odell Beckham Jr. is a Ram.
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out here. The Rams have lost 2 in a row. They're on their bye week here. So that first
they got the Packers in 2 weeks.
It's really the first time that Matt Stafford's really had to deal with, being, the
pressure,
top of the mountain, and he's not really responding well to it. So we'll see. We'll see how they respond here. They still have a ton of talent. Everyone's, they got Val Miller. Oh, they got Odell Beckham. Well, we'll win a game. Couple other points here before we go. 2 more points. The Jets are starting Joe Flacco over Mike White this week. I have no idea what the hell they're doing. I'm really starting to believe that Robert Saleh is not equipped to be an NFL head coach. I just can't. I can't wrap my head around that decision. I mean, Joe Flacco's a great backup. He should have been there to start the season, but now you're like starting him over somebody who potentially could be a starting quarterback someday. I don't know if he's trying to worry about controversy with it. But either way, but Flacco, who I did not know when they made the trade, is not vaccinated. And I'm just going to make a quick vaccine point here. I thought the whole point of the vaccine, why people get vaccines, is because getting the vaccine and any adverse effects from the vaccine is worse than getting the actual virus. And I forgot that for a while because you heard so many different sides of it. But the whole point of a vaccine is because whatever you get from the vaccine is not supposed to be nearly as bad as getting the actual virus. So I'm just very confused about that. I'm very confused about why Mike White is not starting. I'm very confused as to why they're going out of their way to start Joe Flacco. I don't know if they made him a promise they had to start him a game if they traded for him. That's my best guess. But Mike White should absolutely be starting this week.
I agree.
And it's an absolute travesty that he's not.
You might as well see exactly what you have. You might as well, if he sucks, but let him, you know what you got in Joe Flacco. Let Mike White go do what he does.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. And Cam Newton returned and wasted no time telling everyone how great, how happy he is to be back, screaming him back to the camera. I thought it was hilarious. Cam Newton hasn't changed.
It was awesome.
I'd love to see him win a game this week, and for the Panthers to make the playoffs, because that would just be really exciting if Cam was all of a sudden back. But the way he was streaming in front of the camera was definitely a little ridiculous, and he had a 2-yard run in the end zone. It wasn't like he made the play of the year, ran for 40 yards. He ran a 2-yard touchdown run. I mean, ridiculous.
That is Cam Newton and the epitome of Cam Newton. And for him to get that touchdown on his first play, take his helmet off, scream and get a penalty was the perfect encapsulation of what Cam Newton brings to a team. He's going to be energetic. He's going to be a little over the top at times, but he's going to be an absolute red zone monster. And to see him have 2 plays and 2 touchdowns was kind of just perfect Cam and him in a bubble. He's starting this week, Frank. I have no expectations. I don't think he's going to be valuable as a starter, but I think honestly,
he's better as that relief guy in my opinion.
He's the perfect red zone quarterback. It sounds stupid and you can never do that, but he's Taysom Hill on steroids. He could do what Taysom Hill does, and he's much better than Taysom. I'd rather him than Taysom Hill.
Last thing before we go, who do you trust the most right now to win the Super Bowl? You have one team to pick out of all the teams in the league. Who do you have the most faith in will win the Super Bowl this year right now?
The Chiefs.
I agree. It is the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go. Win that division. Win me some money. That'll do it for this edition of Lucas Podcast. We'll see you all next week when Carlos Correa is a member of the New York Yankees.